Hi guys, welcome to a fresh video here on the channel. Now, it's time to really dial in on the 2025 AFL draft. So over the course of the next few weeks, we are going to be covering player profiles on players who are tipped to make their way to Icon Park. We'll start with them, and then we'll start focusing on some players who we don't know yet are definitely linked to Carlton, but maybe over the next few weeks we'll get some more information. So we'll start today, of course, with Harry Dean. And I think before we start with Harry Dean, we start talking about Peter Dean, because this is obviously a father-son prospect. Now, one thing, before any conversation around Harry Dean started, I remember anytime I would talk to people in the Carlton community about, who were the players back in the day who just played the game the right way. Peter Dean was always spoken about in, two or three names. The Bruce Dools, the Peter Deans, just the reliable, competitive, tough-natured players. And Peter Dean had a really, really strong reputation. Obviously, premiership player, 248 games for the club, so tough, so courageous. These were always the traits that people would assign to Peter Dean, and they would always flock to say his name. So it's pretty cool that we're in this position now that we can start talking about his son, Harry Dean, and now it starts getting real. So let's get into it. So who is Harry Dean? Harry Dean is born on the 13th of November, 2007. So he will turn 18 just before the 2025 national draft. He stands at 193 centimeters tall. And really, he's built his reputation as one of the most composed and reliable key defenders in this year's draft class. So he played his junior footy with the Murray Bushrangers in the Coates Talent League and represented Vic Country in the Under-18 National Championships. Now, in a few short seasons, I would even go as far to say over the last 12 months, he has shot up the rankings from where he was at the start of this season to where he is today. There have been conversations all throughout the year that he would potentially be a first-round pick, and then the closer we got to the end of this season, the higher and higher he got ranked. He's been ranked in the top 10. He is, as far as last week, has been ranked as a player that might be taken with pick 2. So we'll get into that a little later on. But we're basically talking about a guy that's very highly rated, one of the best defenders in the draft class, and someone who Carlton will definitely benefit from having in their team for years to come. Now, when your father is a premiership player, or a two-time premiership player, I should say, it's very easy to enter the draft and enter the league with the shadow right behind you. And it's a pretty big shadow, let's be honest. Peter Dean is a champion of the Carlton Football Club. So what's really important for Harry is to balance living up to his father, but more importantly, creating his own name. And I think that's super important, and that's something that I think he'll be focused on. And there's some really interesting quotes here which really align with the pedigree of the Dean family at the Carlton Football Club. Harry himself has said, "I'll do anything to beat my opponent or win my ball. I've been told a few times that I play a little bit old-fashioned. Obviously, Dad had that at a bit of a later age, but I'd say that I'm old school. I just love the physicality of it." Now, he has gone on to talk about his father and some of the footage that he shows him. And he's quoted here as saying, "He mostly shows me the biffs and the bashes. I obviously don't mind a bit of physicality myself." Now, a further quote here by the Murray Bushrangers talent manager, Mick Wilson, says the following: "He's as ready-made a player to walk into round 1 from being drafted that I've seen come through the program in my involvement. It's the fact that he's so competitive and combative. He just hates losing. It's white line fever. Classic white line fever. He crosses that white line and gee, he is determined. I've never seen a kid like it. You peel the layers back and he's an incredibly determined kid, but he's also so focused. He's competitive and combative. And there's a difference between competitive and combative, but he's both. He's incredibly caring for his teammates and people around his circle as well. His high-level footy ability is matched by his high-level character. He just ticks so many boxes in regard to his emotional intelligence as well as his football talent. That's what I think really holds him in good stead." I mean, look, these are all great words, but I think some of the themes and issues that come up here are just so important for the Blues in the future. High-level characters are so important for building good culture. High-level competitors And if this guy's got competitiveness and combativeness, I think we are going to quickly fall in love with him. And I think also being a Carlton man, you kind of get it. You either get it or you don't get it. And there's no doubt in my mind that Harry Dean gets it. He gets the feeling, he gets the passion. He understands it's not personal from the fans. He understands the standard. It's been passed on to him. So look, it is really exciting to have this prospect coming through. And, you know, we spoke about it with Pommy last week in the draft preview. So I just want to clip that up here.
Harry Dean would be in the conversation for Carlton if he wasn't Peter Dean's son. He is an incredible interceptor. His game read for Vic Country in the national championships, another level. You've only got to watch him and Josh Lindsay in any Vic Country game this year. They absolutely killed it. And Harry Dean patrolled the skies. His lead is good. He plays out in front. He's not scared to go back shoulder and trust his pace to get to the ball first. Great spoiler of the football. But the most nicest thing about watching Dean is he's that modern day dynamic intercept threat. Gets the ball at the highest angle, gets it straight through the corridor very quickly, gets the game moving. And that is something that Carlton struggle with.
So I wanted to unpack a bit around when did the hype really start gaining momentum? And it really was the Vic Country Showcase. Now, for a bit of context, he came into the season just wanting to play. After his under 15s and 16s campaign were ruined by persistent injuries relating to growing pains, his under 17s season was ended just minutes after it began when he broke his shoulder in a marking contest. So you get a bit of context around having to overcome some adversity, and it gives a little bit more context to the story about how he was able to play so well this year. He was named as the National Carnival's All-Australian centre-half back, and his best game for Vic Country was his final one, where he finished with 22 disposals, 8 marks, and 11 intercepts in a best-on-ground display against Vic Metro. Now, obviously, there will be areas to develop, you know, being a key position player, you know, his tank, his physicality, you know, he's coming up against men from next year onwards. So that might take some time. And so there are clearly areas where he'll need to develop a bit more in. But in terms of having the tools to play at a high level, he seems to have them all. And I guess anyone who's drafted in the first round will have those tools. Now, given he's a father-son prospect, Carlton have the option to match a bid for him. We've gone through this last week. We've had fresh reports that West Coast would allegedly be considering Harry Dean with pick 2. I don't know how real that is. I don't believe that is as real as what maybe the article suggests. Might be a little bit of code sports trying to fish for some reaction. But regardless, Carlton have the draft capital to make sure that Harry Dean plays for the Carlton Football Club. I think that's the bottom line. You know, we've gone through the scenarios where, you know, you've got 4 clubs ahead of Carlton who have 2 picks in a row. So we'll see where it lands. But bottom line is Harry Dean will be at Carlton next year, and Carlton have what they need to make sure that any potential bid that is required is made, and he will be at the club. Now, some other interesting quotes from Harry Dean himself. He spoke a little bit more about his father. He said, "Dad nearly played 250 games and he played in 2 premierships. That inspired me heaps through my journey to hopefully put on the same Guernsey and the same number as him. It would be pretty special. Just the influence he's had through my career and the feedback and the things he's taught me through my journey. It's been pretty special. To maybe one day put on the navy blue, it would be pretty cool." Now, we also spent a week in July at the Carlton Football Club, just settling in, and I guess as an opportunity for him to get adjusted to the level and just take a look and see how the pros do it. And he had the following to say: "This year has been huge. I've been able to do a few pre-season sessions with the Carlton boys and start to feel the groove of it and just see how they train and how they move through the day. I was lucky enough to do a full week as well. That was the week they were in season playing against Brisbane. I saw how they prepared and set up for it. Every time I go in there, it's just, I've obviously been in there a fair bit now, but it just feels weird. Every time. It's the real stuff. These are the AFL boys you watch on TV. This is it. It's just weird. On the TV, I watch Jacob Wiedering and I just love how he plays the game. Obviously, your mates talk about it at school. They go, I wish I could see him and train and play with him, but I'm living that in a way. It just doesn't feel right."
So as soon as you're there with him, like you've got him in a nice spot, that ball's kicked already. So that's the other key. He's like, he's kicked that ball now.
And just push him to the right.
You've read the ball really well. You know that drop zone is going to be there, you can engage body just to give him zero chance, because you read the ball well here, but he sort of gets a little bit of a look at it and runs under it.
Yeah.
But I reckon if you, as soon as that ball's kicked and you know where that's landing, if you body him and hold him, which you will because you're strong, then you'll get almost like an uncontested mark. Like he won't even be able to come back in and spoil it.
So we've got a guy who's super competitive, super combative, who understands the Carlton way, who understands what Carlton need, who has the passion to bring Carlton back to where it belongs. And yeah, this is a really exciting prospect. And I think throughout the talk about where the bid's going to come from and who's going to make a bid and will Carlton have enough draft capital, I think what has actually been lost in translation is, bottom line, he will be at the club and we're getting a really, really good defender into the club for, you know, an entire career, however long that lasts. You know, we've got young Harry O'Farrell, who is injured, but eventually they'll play alongside each other. You've got Jacob Wiedering, who really is one of the best players in the team right now. And so this is a really exciting time. I'm really pumped to have Harry Dean finally wearing the navy blue as a professional. And I'm just looking forward to seeing his name read out, and wherever that falls is wherever that falls. So what do you think about Harry Dean? What have you seen or read here that sticks out to you? What's important to you? And let us know in the comments below and we'll go from there.